Hello and many thanks for joining us on the program. A very warm welcome. I am Imonia Marere, the first Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund IMF, Gita Gopinath, was in Nigeria recently. It was her first visit to the country, but she had much to say about the Nigerian economy. Expectedly, she commended the government for implementing what she described as long overdue measures, such as the liberalization of the foreign exchange market and the removal of fuel subsidies. However, she also warned that these reforms could be undermined if social protection programs are not accelerated. She urged the government to cushion the reforms' harsh impact with targeted social investments. Now, this is against the backdrop of the fourth quarter 2024 report, which says that Nigeria's gross domestic product (GDP) grew by 3.84% year-on-year in real terms, the fastest expansion in 3 years. The fourth quarter performance surpassed the 3.46% growth recorded in the fourth quarter of 2023 and the third quarter of 2024. The report indicates that for the entire year 2024, Nigeria's GDP grew by 3.40% as against the growth rate of 2.7% in 2023. Now, despite this positive and robust trajectory, the growth rate is below the 6% target projected by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration when he took office in 2023. The indicators are that the quarter four growth was primarily driven by the services sector, while the agriculture, industry, and oil sectors declined year on year. Beyond the GDP growth and the IMF commendation and caution, what has been the impact of the reforms on the socio-economic well-being of Nigerians, many of whom have been put into deeper poverty due to higher inflation? The economic reforms by the Tinubu government may have reignited investors' confidence and received praises from global institutions like the World Bank and the IMF, but at what cost to citizens who are barely making a living? What forms of social protection programs and targeted social investments can cushion the harsh impacts? And how long is this likely to take? Are there lessons to be learned from other climes on the management of such painful economic reforms? These are questions that are on the minds of very many Nigerians, and those are the issues we'll be looking at today on the program. And I'm joined in the studio by two gentlemen. First, from my left is Associate Professor Barnabas Suleiman. He is the Deputy Dean School of Management Sciences at the Cosmopolitan University here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We are also joined by Dr. Adebimpe Tayo. Dr. Tayo is an economist. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man.
Finding time to join us.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's kickstart our discussion by taking a listen to the IMF Deputy Managing Director.
And they were very pleased, especially also with the social safety net program that we've implemented to ensure that the poor and the vulnerable group in the society are getting the impact of all the palliatives that we are giving out and helping to cushion the effect of the PMS subsidy and the FX subsidy removal. And so they are pledging more support to help Nigeria stabilize and for the, the biting harsh economic the biting economy or the biting realities that we're feeling to actually be ameliorated as quickly as possible.
All right, here you have it from the IMF Deputy Managing Director who was in Nigeria just recently, talking about how the reforms, economic reforms in Nigeria have brought about some very deep hardships, and of course, how that is impacting the ordinary Nigerian is our focus on this discussion. Gentlemen, once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so
Let
much.
me ask first and foremost, what you think of the issues or the caution that was thrown out there by the IMF Deputy Managing Director, against the backdrop of the fact that some of these economic reforms that are being implemented by this administration are probably prescriptions from the IMF and the World Bank itself.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. From what the lady said, it's clear that these reforms are necessities. Because where we found ourselves initially, there was no way forward. So I know that many Nigerians, many of us, we crucified the government, we shouted that it was too much. But if you looked at where we're coming from, so there was no other alternative to move forward as a nation than to implement those reforms. So because it got to the point that government could no more finance even the recurrent expenditure, paying salary and things like that. So we couldn't have been able to progress paying such amount of money on subsidy. So subsidy really should be taken off, and that was rightly done. Then on the other issue of the unification of foreign exchange, that was actually the right step in the right direction. So, but the thing that many people are being criticizing is about the implementation. So that how it was done in an hurry. So maybe it should have been well planned and by phase, so that it will not be like you put in about 2 or 3 very powerful instruments together at the same time, and then what would be the impact? So, but there are right steps to be the government should have taken, and that's what they have done. So, and we're happy for the figures we are seeing, that truly we are seeing positive results. We are seeing that the figures are turning upright. So, but the truth is that Nigerians are paying. But like I said, the woman is good that IMF is recognizing the fact that Nigerians are feeling the pain. And they are not coming to tell us that there should be social investment. That is, this impact should be cushioned on Nigerians. But what we are saying that why that was not part of the package right from the beginning. So that is the only thing. But they were the right things to have been done, which was what we did, but the way it was done and no solid plan for this cushion effect, we're not like now coming back to now say, okay, put the solution. But you should have thought of that solution right from the onset so that it will not be, the impact will not be this much on Nigerians. Because it got so bad that some Nigerians could not even afford food on their table anymore. So bad to that point when the inflation was actually escalating. So that, and they were talking about fighting about the minimum wage and all these things. So it was very terrible. But thank God that the Nigerians were able to pass that initial stage. And actually, in economics, we're talking about equilibrium. So we are now finding ourselves in another equilibrium. So though the money in the economy, the money supply could have risen, but at least, so things are coming down. If you look at the price of staple food like beans and all these grains, they are coming down, so meaning that we are achieving another level of equilibrium. But this implementation would have been better if, at the initial step, we were able to think about this social investment right from the beginning.
So, Dr. Barnabas, Professor Barnabas, well, congratulations, first and foremost, on your elevation to the professorial chair.
Yeah, since 2023,
yes,
yes, sir.
But of course, we have not met since then.
Yes, thank you very
Great,
much.
well, yeah. So let's look at the fourth quarter GDP growth figures that we have seen compared to previous, the previous year's fourth quarter. We have been told there's been a growth. And we want to see, balance that growth with the reality on ground.
I mean, it's obvious that there's nothing to celebrate about in terms of what the figures are saying. Statistics are not enough in evaluating the performances of the government. I mean, as social scientists, we must not lose sight of the fact that the people must be at the core of policies. Today, everyone agrees, including the president, that Nigerians are not any better than they were in 2023. A lot of poverty, and like you said, you devalued your currency. At the same time, you removed subsidy, and salaries have not been increased. School fees increased. So many things, price fluctuation. I mean, this is probably the challenge that we have, to the extent that it is difficult for anybody to justify what the government has done in terms of removing subsidy and then devaluing the currency and then the poverty that people are going through on the basis of the fact that the IMF is saying that the GDP has grown. I mean, IMF should be happy now because that's what they always wanted Nigeria to do. And they've found in President Tinubu someone who is a capitalist to the core. And for capitalists, they are very much interested in this, what the statistics is saying. But for humanists, I mean, and that's why leadership must, be a leadership that values the people. If government is unable to provide for the welfare of the people, to secure the people, it does not matter what the statistics is saying, then there's trouble. And as we speak today in Nigeria, Nigerians are not happy because they are not any better than they were in 2023. And this president must translate its economic policies to the well-being of the people. That reconciliation is what they've been unable to do, and that's where the problem is.
Dr. Tayo.
Yes, sir.
It's obvious that there is a disconnect.
Correct.
Between the GDP growth and the welfare of Nigerians.
Yeah.
Let's try and trace that disconnect. The GDP growth, for instance, is said to have been contributed to majorly by the service sector.
Yes.
The oil sector, agriculture, and other sectors are dwindling.
Yes. See, in economics, when we look at the statistic figure and we look at welfare, that is the living standard of the people, in a country like Nigeria, that disconnect will always exist. And why? Because the nation is facing what is called structural issue in Nigeria. So we are facing what is called structural issue. Structural issue has to do with something that are fundamental to the economy. For instance, one of the major structural issues that brings about this disconnect between statistics and the reality we are seeing on the streets of Nigeria, by an average Nigeria, is level of inequality. Level of inequality. Now, for instance, let me give an example. In economics, it's a belief that is said that if you have a sector that is called leading sector, particularly this growth theory, development theory, Rostow's, Rostow's, they took us through different stages of growth. And one of the stages of growth, that's precondition, says there must be a leading sector. That is, among all the sectors of your economy, there will be one that is leading, which will now be dragging others up. So as that one is leading, it should have impact that be able to drag other. For instance, now we have in Nigeria, let's say oil sector should be our leading sector. But over time, that sector should be developed to the point that it can push up other sector, like manufacturing sector. It should be able to push up other sector, like service sector. But in a situation whereby that is not happening, there will be structural issue. So it means that only the Nigerians who are in that sector, that oil sector, which is the leading sector, as that sector is driving the whole economy, their own welfare will be growing. Their own income will be increasing. While other people outside that sector will be feeling the impact of poverty and lack. So that is what is happening. So, but if the economy is growing altogether, the leading sector is able to pick other, there's what is called backward integration, whereby this sector, for instance, that this oil sector can bring up, can start to take up our manufacturing sector, so that what we need to improve on our manufacturing and industrialization, we can get it through oil. Then, so before we know it, many Nigerians in that manufacturing sector, they also will be having breakthroughs and be also coming up. By so doing, other sectors also will come up, and many Nigerians who have been in poverty will be rising up.
Well, by the figures that were released for the fourth quarter,
Yes.
the main driver of the GDP growth was the service sector, and not the oil sector that was supposed to be the leading sector. Now, beyond these two sectors, what other sectors are supposed to be the main drivers or the leading drivers of the GDP growth?
Yes.
Do we rely on only one sector or two sectors?
You are very correct, sir.
If that happens, I mean, if that's the case,
you will be in trouble. If anything happens to that particular leading sector and it remains the only one over the time, if anything happens to it, the economy will fall.
See, in the ideal situation, the leading sector in Nigeria should even be agriculture. Because hunger, the kind of hunger we have in the land today is because farmers are not finding it easy. You go to the villages, the rural areas, as a result of insecurity, right? As a result of upsurge in transportation, arising from the increase in fuel prices, and our agriculture has been taken to the background. And that's why there's so much problem. As a matter of fact, the leading sector in Nigeria today is the political sector. That's where, if you even go to the rural areas, our boys have now become thugs. They don't go to the farm, they don't go to school.
They want to go into politics.
They want to go into politics. Because that's the easiest way that you find people who should never, be in positions of leadership. That's where they are playing it,
and they are building
making
wealth,
so much money.
Yes,
Going
into that.
And that's where the structural problem really is.
Yes.
We need a leadership that is transparent. We need a leadership that is innovative, a leadership that is visionary, and more, very importantly, in terms of trying to overcome the problem of inequality, economic inequality that we have now. Because what Tinubu's government has been able to do is to put so much money in the hands of the very rich.
Yes.
You have governors who have so much money at their disposal now that they are not even doing anything for their state, rather than, looting. So, and the president even mentioned that in one of the meetings he had with them, that you have so much money now. I mean, is it not a shame that our country will be buying trailers of rice, trailers of beans, and claiming to be distributing to people that we don't even see?
You see,
so until we have policies that address the problem of corruption, the problem of bad leadership, particularly on the part of our leaders at the state level, then we'll continue to have all these problems. IMF will not go to those rural areas to see what is happening. They just sit down in Transcorp Hilton, have good time there. And of course, if you're in Transcorp Hilton, you'll be surprised. You won't see poverty. You can't hide poverty.
Yeah, you see.
Nobody can hide poverty. You can hide wealth, you can hide riches, but not poverty. If you go on the streets of Nigeria today, of Abuja, or Lagos, you see poverty in its real manifestation. That's what the government should be addressing.
So you have mentioned something very critical. You're talking about the sub-nation, that is the states. Because most times we are quick to point the accusing finger at the center and say it is the administration of so-and-so. But what about the states? You see, most times when we look at this thing, we are quick to just judge the center. Many of these governors, what is their economic plan for their state? Do they even have a blueprint on how to industrialize their states? We can only point to one or two who have such idea. But many of other ones, it's how they will come back to office and how they will continue enriching themselves and their cronies. And that is not the way to solve. In addition to agriculture being a leading sector, manufacturing is also very critical. So imagine if Nigeria can manufacture everything we are importing today as a nation. See the relief on our foreign exchange window. And what would that do to us? Now we are battling with foreign exchange around 1,005, 1,006. And we're like, okay, let it gallop. You will eventually find this level, and then we'll see it retracing. But is it actually retracing? No. So it has been maroning around that 1516 because it's like that is not the actual value. But what can change that status quo is industrialization, is production. You'll be able to produce and export. That is the way Naira can find its value we want it to find. And I can see it's a possibility. I can see Naira can go back as 700 Naira. It can go back as 400 Naira to $1. It all depends on the policy, the economic policy, not only at the center, even at the state, because that will be done together. So why the center is trying to see, okay, how we can do something, industrialize, bring in, take all this, like we talk about agri should be a leading sector. We talk about manufacturing should be a leading sector. Even service can be a leading sector. But it takes visionary leadership who will say, yes, we can do something very definite to actually do something about these sectors and see how we can maximize the potentials of this sector to be able to bring many Nigerians out of poverty and reduce inequality.
Is there a possibility, and I ask this with a lot of caution, is there a possibility that any of these sub-nationals can be a shining example to others? Can they do it? Can any one of these states on its own come up with the kind of programs that could eventually be a leading light for others to follow?
Yes, I think that some states have actually, shown examples. They are not enough, but we can see that if other states had done the same thing, they told that part, maybe there would have been a better situation than what we have now. For instance, look at Lagos State. You can see deliberate attempts at building infrastructure, deliberate attempts at, even payment of salaries, because it's very important. You go to some states, as we speak, civil servants don't earn up to 30,000 Naira per month. So it's a terrible situation in some states. Then you look at what the Niger State governor, has done
with agriculture.
Agriculture.
Yes.
It's an example. There are state governors in Nigeria who have access to funds that they don't even know what to do with it. And so they start looting. You are taking $1.6 million to go and pay school fees of your children, 4 children or 5 of them, in secondary school. At the end of the right WAEC, if they don't have help, they may fail.
Yeah, another state.
So these are the challenges.
Another state
that
like
we have.
answer is Governor Oti.
Abia State.
Abia State. He also is making some strides to see how he can do something for his state. So, and like you mentioned, when you have a governor who all his interest is out to pay for the fee of his children, even to the graduation, so what would they do for the states? So this is...
There are states in Nigeria that used to be industrial hubs.
Yeah.
Yes. Anambra State.
For instance,
Abia.
Kano,
Kano,
Kaduna. These used to be industrial hubs.
Yes.
Is it possible for those who govern those states now, for instance, to reenact
those efforts? You see, it has to do with the person in charge and his vision. So when he comes to the office, as he comes there, all his mind is, I will return. So, and to settle the godfathers.
Yes.
And planning his way for second time in office. He will not do anything. So it's to settle the power that be that brought him to office, and it's their bid he will do. But the right thing for the economy, for the people in the state, will not be his plan. Because it's not that it's not possible. When we always talk about our founding fathers, what they did to brought us to this point. They were not particular about what they would do for themselves. In those days, Obafemi Awolowo is the regional competition. You grow your own side, I grow my own side, and each region actually coming up at its own pace. The mundia thing of my future, my children, were not their focus. It is how they can make their life of the people in the subnational better, or in the religion at that time. But we don't see that anymore this time around. This is the issue. So everything rises and falls on the leadership.
Let me take you now to the whole issue of social protection, because, I mean, it's a known fact now that the harsh realities of the economic reforms that have been adopted by government is biting hard at the heart of Nigerians.
Yeah.
So when we talk about social protection programs, for example, what are those social protection programs in Nigeria of today?
Well, the government will reel out the lists or the names of projects, programs, and even institutions that have been created to ensure that they address the problems of hunger and poverty, particularly as it affects the very vulnerable people of our society. Those things are there in name. For instance, you have the humanitarian affairs. But what is happening there? You have, so many of them. In fact, the president this current president even created special advisor on such programs according to region, Southeast, South, and so on and so forth. They have also created some regional bodies.
That's the,
exactly.
Yes,
North Central Development
Commission.
Commission. So those things are there. But again, the people that you are going to put there are politicians who will come in, who will be appointed into those places to drive the process. And as soon as they get there, what they are looking for is how to, get something for themselves, some of them, not all, and then how they can win the next election, so that at the end of it all, the purpose of setting up those organizations and those programs are never achieved. People buy bags of rice, trailers of rice, and go and put them in warehouses, awaiting elections. They did that during COVID-19, and they've started doing it again. So the people must take it upon themselves that at every point in time that they have opportunity to elect people who will represent them, who will lead them, they will elect people at all levels, not just at the presidential level now. State governors, local government chairmen, and so on and so forth, elect people that have empathy, people who have the fear of God, and people who are sincere, so that they can act, because the resources are there. Some of these state governors don't know what to do with it. They started building universities. Look at Kogi State. How many state universities? 3 state universities. Built just within the last 2 years. What are they doing with all those things? Why don't you carry those monies and build industries and get people employed? I know they will tell you they employ teachers and all. Is that without quality of education? So until we begin to mean well for our people with empathy, and then the resources that are coming in are going to where they have actually been sent to address the problems of poverty. If not, those things will exist in names without any real
let me make some addition
impact
to this. It is good that we should have social investments, but social investments they are just temporary measures.
Palliatives.
So you cannot build the future of Nigerians on social investment. It's just like hot oil pours on you and you quickly just put something to just cool it. But it's not solving the problem immediately. So structural issue must be addressed. Now, another thing I have with this social investment is, what is their impact? Do we measure the impact of this social investment? You have NDDC, you have all this humanitarian. Have you been able to say, okay, now, so billion of naira has been allocated and disbursed for this social investment? What impact? In economics, we do that. Monitoring and evaluation. We monitor. So this money that was budgeted and disbursed for this social investment, let's have the impact of it. Let's measure the impact. How many lives were touched? What was the situation before? But we don't do that.
For instance, you had the cash transfer scheme, school feeding program, you have pension schemes and all of that. Yeah. How effective have they been in reaching out to the most
Very needy.
vulnerable,
Very need-
of the Nigerian
Yeah, on
population.
Nigerian
They
people.
can't be effective because of corruption. The people that have been put there to implement these policies, once the monies are
They
released, they hijack the money.
Program,
They
yeah.
just do programs and bring television, and then they give 5 people and dance, invite all these musicians that they will pay very well, and that's all. And it's not really it's not really the fact that people don't report these failings in our institutions and even the programs that have been put in place. The reports are there. Researches have been conducted to establish the fact that these programs do not have
Impact.
real impact
On the
on
people.
the lives of the vulnerable. Those facts are there. But the political will, first to deal with those who have undermined the people, who have stolen public funds, meant to address problems of hunger and poverty in our societies, the political will is not always there. And you see some of them, once they do those things and it's becoming too obvious, the next thing you hear that they've decamped to a party where they think they will have
Political cover.
Political cover. So all these are the problems. If not, I think that this government has released a lot of money to address some of these issues. But where are the monies going to? Private pockets.
Now, let's go innovative based on what we just said, this point in this discussion. And when I say innovative, can we think out of the box and see what we can do differently while still executing social investments? Should it all be just transfer money to people's accounts, give them food, school feeding? No, we can do much more than that. China, for instance, you see Chinese almost every part of the world, but many of these Chinese, if you're very close to them, you see they are government-backed investment. The government of China will back its people, send them to other places, give them capital, and they have targets. Any amount you are repatriating back to China, so it's an incentive for you to get more capital, to do more. So this is innovative way. By the time you're doing that, you don't need to transfer cash to me. I'm able to do something on my own. I'm able to do business, make money. If you take me to go to another place, I have government backing me with cash, with also even diplomatic resources to make sure that I succeed. But we don't see such in Nigeria. China is one particular. When you look at many Chinese company, you see government is backing them. They back them with capital. They back them with diplomatic resources to make sure that in any country they are, these people are taking over the place. It's a thing we can do. So we know we are running capitalist system or mixed system. It's a mixed system, but some people are questioning, are we actually mixed or capitalist? Because when you say mixed, we should see what government is doing and also what the private sectors are doing. But are we actually seeing that? So, but one way we can use that China model, whereby don't transfer money, identify people who have the entrepreneurial spirit, who have the idea, who know that all this they need is a support. They can do something for themselves, and not only themselves, employs others. By the time you do that one for about, let's say, about 100 people, and they are not, each of them is employing maybe 50-50. And that will be sustainable than transferring 30,000 every month for 6 months.
So do you think that kind of program can align economic growth with increased social protection
yes,
programs for
exactly.
individuals?
It will
Social
achieve those.
welfare. Yes.
It will achieve the two. It will bring about increase in our productivity.
I think
And also-
the Nigerian government actually has
The growth.
mechanisms for doing that too. For instance, if you look at the Nigerian Development Bank, which has transferred over hundreds of billions of naira to small businesses, small and medium enterprises. And I think that body has actually been credible, a lot of money. Of course, working with African Development Bank and some other financial institutions, they've disbursed a lot of money to entrepreneurs, and that has helped. But you see, there's a political angle to
That's true.
the idea of social welfareism, because people use it as a political tool. Now, most of the people in the rural areas that you want to reach, they don't even have banks. You know, they don't even bank accounts. They don't even have businesses and all. I mean, in all societies, you know, it's not the case that everybody, you know, must go the way of entrepreneurship. But if you have our school system working effectively, and then the monies that is being wasted with TED fund, because you go to most of our schools, you see buildings of all types, you know, going on, all because you want to give contract to some people to go and build this block faculty and so on across our university system. But no fund, I mean, the fund should even go more into research that will bring about solutions to the problems that we are faced with. It's not just buildings that you waste money on. At the end of it all, we see what happens with all those this. And that's why what the president has done now.
I
with
doubt if
Nel
ASU
Fund.
will agree with you on that.
ASU, yes, ASU will agree with me, because they also have come up to say that the way things are being done now, they can be done better. And that's why they are protesting the idea of liquidating TED fund and then channeling the money to other, like Nel Fund and all. Nel Fund is a good program, because students who can afford to pay their fees now, government pays directly to the school, and then they get. Now, this is how you can truly ensure that the money is going to places where they should go. But the question is, how pervasive are these methods in addressing the problems that our people face? So it has to be done in a multi-sectoral manner, to the extent that all the sectors of our economy, they are affected. You know, we have the infrastructural needs that we are talking about. They are also provided for, so that there is no lagging behind, like you have said.
Yes, so like I totally agree that we should have specific sector. We should be focused, like education, you said. But I look at it that after they finish from the school, where would they get the job?
Entrepreneurship.
So
they create jobs.
That now comes to this earlier point I said.
Yes.
That if government can be focused, in economics, we'll have different, what is called economic and non-economic growth factors. That is, or determinants. So for an economy to grow over the time and grow sustainably and grow inclusively to the point of reaching development, because development is the end point. But you start growing and you grow sustainably at high rate over a long period of time, what China is doing. For about 40 years now, China has been recording high growth rate. And in no time, if not for all the power tussle, China will have overtaken US. But what are they doing? China, when it comes to entrepreneurship spirit, you can see them. They are all over. And it has been said that except China is fully satisfied and become well developed, other continents that are struggling like Africa, we have a long way to go.
So beyond the Chinese model,
yes,
are there other models from other countries, from other climes that Nigeria can at least borrow a leaf from?
You see, there are other models who are the countries who have done the same and they are doing well. Singapore, no, they are doing well. If you look at Malaysia, they are also coming up. Brazil, they are coming up. But when you look at this one, you trace all this to the leadership, the vision of the leaders, what they actually wanted to achieve. And we're talking about leaders who are not about themselves, but about the nation, what they can do for the nation. Like I mentioned our founding fathers, their goals then were not for themselves. It's to build a nation. If we have people in power who primarily focus is let's build Nigeria. Because Nigeria will be the one to build Nigeria. America will not build Nigeria. Americans will build Nigeria. It is the people that will build their nation. So IMF, World Bank, they can advise us, they can do all this, but the development of Nigeria, sustainable growth, inclusive growth, must come as the fruit and effort of Nigerians, starting from the leadership. So it talks to our leaders, Are they like, let's build a nation, or let me just take care of myself and my future?
No, that's the fact. We need leaders who truly know what they are doing,
Patriotic.
and they have the fear of God, so that the resources that are at their disposal, they are used appropriately to address the problems of the country. What we currently have is a situation where our political leaders are living in opulence, whereas the citizens, the commoners, are living in abject poverty. You can imagine, as rich as the U.S. is, the richest nation on earth, the U.S. just now, they are engaging in programs and even policies that will create efficiency. And that's why Donald Trump has appointed Elon Musk to even look at areas that they can, cut costs, so that they can free up money that can be used for the country. But in our own case, we have a situation where you have over-bloated government structures. You have, officials that that are not doing anything other than taking salary and looting, and that's not helping our nation. We are complaining of money. We are engaged. We are borrowing to feed those who are already overfed. We must address those problems. Until leadership is focused on addressing the challenges of poverty, the challenges of hunger, the challenges of lack of electricity, and all the other challenges that we have,
Yes.
then it will be difficult
that then takes us to the whole issue of what you think the urgent reforms that are needed,
Yes,
that government should begin to think of to ensure that this economic growth rate translates into better living conditions and social outcomes for Nigerians.
So I mentioned it before, and the last time I mentioned, I talked about economic factors. That is, I'm talking about economic growth that will be sustainable, that will be inclusive. Inclusive means that it is impacting their lives. We're not just recording figures. People's lives are actually improving. So, and then that can lead us into economic development. We have both economic factors and non-economic factors. We can call it determinants, economic determinant and non-economic determinants. So, but when we look at it in economics, doing the analysis, we see that the two set of factors must come together. The economic factors must be in place, and non-economic factor must be in place. I want to talk about non-economic factors.
Yes.
One of them is what we call social attitude. Social attitude. And the one I just mentioned is that patriotism is a social attitude. So an average American is like, what I can do for my nation. But an average Nigerian is about what he will get from the nation. Some people now, you see them going to the National Assembly, go to see all the leaders. What are they looking for? Opportunity to get a job or to get contracts. Is that the way we can build a nation? No. So non-economic factor, like discipline, that talks about fighting corruption, because as long as we are dealing with corruption, we cannot develop, because the resources that we should use to develop are being linked out of the system. Even if those money, let's say, they are still retained within the system, maybe we'll still get benefit. But they are leaked out. They are leakages. So corruption is the leakages through which the resources that should develop the economy are being taken out. So these are non-economic factors. I've talked about discipline. I've talked about social attitude, patriotism. You are not there because you want to make something for yourself, but you are there for what Nigeria will become. Some countries, like an average American, America to him is a pride. He's so proud to be an American. So if you are there, and you see, an average Nigerian, when they go to those places, it's like, they want to. But they build their nation. It is you and I that also build our nation. So it is, when I go there, what is my attitude towards my nation? Then other economic factors, all these things, our resources and everything. So, but I want to talk about, it's very important, one area which is also a structural issue I mentioned, and that is inflation. That one alone is very destructive. An average Nigerian who was earning, let's say, in 2023, was earning 100,000 naira. Maybe within that 100,000 naira, he will be able to buy a bag of rice. Okay, let me not talk about 2023. Let's talk earlier days when rice.
2023. Bag of rice in 2023 was 40,000 naira.
So, and that's
and now
that bag of rice,
100,000
maybe
naira.
with his 3 children, can take them maybe for 6 months. So, and the remaining amount, you can give the madam money to make soup and also manage, and I can save some amount for the children's school fees. So, but when the price of rice, I think maybe it's around 70 or 80, or how much is it in a bag of rice now?
You don't eat rice, well? It's about 100,000 naira.
So
I mean, I think
now,
it's 90,000.
So now I'm trying to analyze how inflation is the major issue that is not making the impact to be felt. And it's destroying every effort.
To address
so
that
100,000 you give the man cannot even buy him a bag of rice. So that is hardship. That is what inflation does to everybody. So if government can maintain a monetary level that will make you to get the same quantity in economics, we talk about people are not particular about money illusion. Money illusion, they are not particular about how much I have, but what quality, what quantity of goods and services
can that money buy you?
Bring to my table.
Okay. Right, so
I was trying to say that in addition to what he has said, if we want to really improve our food production in this country, we must address the problem of insecurity. Now, if you go to most of the states in the north, people have run away from their farms. Because you go to the farm, it's like you are going to your death sentence. So until we have that, and that's one of the major crises with our food production in this country. You go to Benue, you go to Kogi, you go to Zamfara, you go to all the states in the north, even in some states in the south now. You find out that farmers are afraid to go to their farms because of the challenges of insecurity. So if the government is able to address that to a large extent, then our food production will increase, and that can also help address the problem of increase in prices with respect, to food. Then government can also, I have always said that, you see, even those who introduced us to the economic theories that we are trying to practice into now, they don't do it at that same level. You go to the US, there are subsidies. There are subsidies. Yes. So if they have decided to subsidize their agriculture, and we are not, and we say, okay, the one that touches every man and woman in this country is petroleum. I'm not saying we should go back to it, because in fact, as a matter of fact, they still pay subsidy for petroleum anyway, right? So you want to ask, what is the direction of government in trying to address this problem of, continuous increase with respect to transportation, that is affecting everybody. We're not even talking about farmers now. People don't want to go to work. Today, you see that some state governments have said, come to work only 3 times a week, which affects the GDP anyway, because that is loss of manpower.
Yes.
That's loss of productivity. So there is a whole lot of problems that our people must truly come and solve. And political solution is very important.
You made mention earlier on of the lack of political will. Quickly, I want you to address that. How can that be brought about? What should be done at every level, local, government, state, and federal levels, to bring about the political will to scale up the social investment programs and social protection programs for the people? How can that political will be brought about?
You see, in any context that political will is being discussed, the core of it is that government must focus on justice. Government must uphold the rule of law, and in the context that it has to do with dealing with issues as they are. Let no man, let no woman feel comfortable that because he's in a particular party, because he's closer to the president or the governor, he or she can undermine, our rules, our laws on how things should be done and get away with it. You go to River State, for instance. I know we are not discussing River State now, but there's palpable tension in that place now, with even militants threatening that they are going to blow up the things, some things happen and all. You see, government, political will here means that government must, ensure that the right thing is done and is seen to be done by looking at the institutions that are trying to undermine the government and calling them to order. The EFCC must go after those who have taken monies that belong to the commoners and they have embezzled those monies. They must go out. Don't go only after those that you think are deviating from the government of the day. When that happens, then you are now beginning to ask questions as it relates to the political will to govern.
Okay.
Yeah, see,
Dr. Tayo,
sir, I will.
Yes.
I will-
This will be your closing shots.
Okay, yeah, I will leave us with 3 I's. I in 3 places as what should be done to see both immediate impact and a long-term impact to this discourse. And the 3 are, number 1, inflation. If inflation can be tamed, like analogy I gave, I don't mind if you don't give me social welfare. The one I'm earning can bring the quantity of goods and services that is okay for me. I will be good. That is why we have disconnect. As long as the inflation is rising, there will always be disconnect between the statistics and the economic data and the welfare of Nigerians. Inflation is centered. That's number 1 I. This other I want to talk about is innovative ways of raising capital. I call it capital formation. In economics, it's capital formation because whatever we want to do, whether you want to expand your economy, you want it to grow inclusively and sustainably, so you need capital. So, but I talk about not just capital, innovative. There are innovative ways.
And the third one?
And the third one is infrastructure. If the road to your house is very good, and 24/7 you have light, your children come back from school, they can do their work. The weather is very hot now, and you are able to sleep because you have light. Is my life not getting better? Is your life not getting better? So these 3 I's, if government can focus on them, then we'll bridge the gap between this growth we are seeing and the disparity in the life and welfare of Nigerians.
Thank you so much. Dr. Adebimpe Tayo is an economist. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
And Associate Professor Barnabas Suleiman is the Deputy Dean, School of Management Sciences at the Cosmopolitan University here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
And for you, our viewers, we want to thank you for investing your time with us. We'll see you again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.